Okie dokie. So I'm gonna get started, but basically what I want to do this week is I'm just sort of continuing on this spider that I worked on last week and the week before. So 2 weeks ago we just made all these very junky placeholder like low poly assets and did like the basic setup. It was all very maybe interesting but maybe kind of boring. And then last week we got him firing his big laser, and we also made each of the individual parts vulnerable to damage. So the laser is just a VFX still right now. Like when he like shoots me, I don't actually get hurt yet because I'm just focusing on like getting his parts working correctly. But you can see we can go around individually and shoot out like the legs. Oh my goodness. I don't have any missile targets on it yet, which would make this like a lot easier. But you see, once I hit out all the parts, then it just goes into the stat state. So we have the basic life cycle of the tank working. Like it's got like idle, it's got aggro, it's got attacking, it's got getting damaged, and then it's got dying. Obviously, like in production, there will be like twice as many states, but those are like the core ones. And what I was thinking of doing this week, instead of doing like a bunch of like, since it was like very coding heavy last week, which some people are into, but not everybody's into, I was thinking this week I'd basically spend maybe like a hour doing some sketches of what like the real art assets for this big lady could look like, and then jump into Blender and just start modeling. Now, it's been a while since I did like serious modeling in Blender, so my muscle memory might be a little funny. So you're gonna get to witness live what it looks like when I have to remember how to use programs that I haven't used in a month. But the main thing about this tank is that a lot of the big sort of mini boss or spaceship or like giant kaiju sized enemies in this game are actually made up of multiple actors. There's sort of various reasons for that. Like I like being able to change up the proportions or like the numbers of modules in a kind of like flexible way when I'm doing level design. But it also means I can get a lot more like reuse even between maybe like multiple tanks that have variations in their proportions or their weapon loadouts. So this is actually broken into 3 pieces. There's this main chassis, or what I'm calling like the hips, because all the legs are coming off of it. There's this turret, and then there's the individual legs. Now the legs are all instances of a single type, but I think in practice I'm going to want 2 types of legs. I think like the back legs and then these front legs are going to be different types. So actually we need to design 4 parts. We need to do the chassis, the turret, the back legs, and the front legs, and we'll make 4 assets. We'll rig them up. I don't know if we're gonna, like 2 hours is pretty, I'm not a very efficient artist, so I think maybe we're gonna be just starting to model by the time we get to 2 o'clock, at which point I'm gonna be seriously hungry, and I'm gonna wanna go get lunch at that point. But in the meantime, just for anybody tuning in for the first time, this is Nightshift Galaxy. It's like an arcade style third-person anime mecha game. You can see it's very like, it's kind of like Star Foxy, kind of like Bulk Slashy. It definitely just me channeling my like Sega kid energy. So first things first, I'm just going to take a screenshot of this, boop, and we're going to go into a drawing program. Which, is it already open? Why did that not open? It is already open. There we go. Is it okay if the chat overlaps? I think it's fine if the chat overlaps this a little bit. Maybe I can just move that over a little bit. And yeah, basically I just kind of like talk through what I'm doing as I'm doing, like why I make different decisions. But also if anybody wants to chime in, either because you saw something on social media as I'm like sizzle posting, you had questions about it, or you just have like general questions about game development. I'm kind of a aged mummy who's been doing this for 20 years, so I'm also just happy to like answer any like general questions people have about game development. But in the meantime, let's pull up that screenshot that I took. Zip. Edit, crop. And yeah, I'm just gonna like start by doing like a quick draw over of like what a more interesting version of this could look like. And I did, when I was like posting previews on like Twitter and stuff, I was taking a look at this, where is it? I can pull it up. Beep, 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 beep. I was kind of taking a look at this, these kind of like spider tanks that they had in Pat Labor. Wait, is this guy just getting ambushed? Zoda just get ganked real quick. Yeah, I kind of like these dinguses. They're like more kind of like military hardware-y looking and less kind of like anime super robot looking. So I think this is kind of like broadly the direction I want to go. I don't want to like actually have an image of these guys up on the screen while I'm working though, because I feel like that'll influence me too much, and I do want my guys to look sort of different. But I do like how like if we get like a good look at them, they've got these kind of like shields over their legs that sort of extend above the joints, that kind of act as like guards. I kind of like how like they're a little more elevated, and they've also clearly got this rigging up here that are like safety rails, because like people are expected to actually climb around on top of these. And then they've just got all this kind of like military stuff of like air holes and like handles and vents and other things. So yeah, I think that's kind of like, this is kind of like a vibe reference, if not like a reference. So let's see, if I go in here and put a, oh here, let me, so people can see my layers. So we'll just like put a white layer down, and then we'll adjust the translucency so I can see on top of it, and then let's start drawing. So one sec, let me move my dang tablet into place. Okay. So let's see, I'm just gonna do like a quick, like very literal draw over of the model that I already have as kind of just like a first pass, and then I think second pass, like I think I'm gonna then like use the lasso tool to like grab and change the proportions of certain bits, and then we can do like a second pass that's like more detailed and interesting. But so I did like this gun barrel basically the way that it is, where it has a slanted end here. We can kind of imagine that it has a sort of inflated bit on the end, and then is more, and like maybe it's like rounded on top, but it's like flat on the bottom. That could be like a more interesting shape than just like a tube. So like these sides here would be like flat, and then there's like a bevel down there. Probably, I don't think you would actually like use a gun sight on these, but like I think you gotta put gun sights on things to make them read as guns, even if it like doesn't totally make sense in the narrative. And then this dome is a little too like, I think it's like too much just like a dome. Like I'm trying to think of like what would be like a shape that's more interesting and would also be more dynamic as it rotates, because like when it rotates, it doesn't, I mean, because it has radial symmetry, it doesn't change that much. So I wonder if like you like cut off the sides of this and had it kind of stick out more in the back. This gives it a little bit more personality. And then like maybe on the back side of it, that's like where the cockpit is, where like people get in and out of it, like they would climb in from the back rather than climbing all the way on top. And then I think we sort of keep this like ball joint that connects it to the main body. But then the main body should probably have some type of like raised accent that this slots into, which is maybe more rectangular, so there's like little gaps on the corners. I don't know, we'll change these proportions later. And then for the main chassis, basically when I was thinking about it, I was just like, okay, I guess in the back are these big, like either like engine or ammunition or like fuel compartments. And then there's like the main body on the bottom, and like maybe this is a 2-pilot setup where like one pilot is in the is in the chassis and one pilot's in the turret. Like maybe if someone's in the turret, there's like a little window right here. And actually in this front part here, we can like mirror that like design language. Maybe give a little joining exit right there. Just refine that a little bit. But yeah, like I'm wondering, I think this still makes sense to have a big thing in the back, because I think that makes it more spider-like, because it reads as like it has a big butt behind its thorax, like spiders do, where they keep all their webbing goop. And it's actually, I wonder if like when you shoot, if there's like exhausts in the back, like when you shoot, the turret gets really hot and then there's a cooling system that just like floods the chamber with some chemical that then gets like pushed out the back. So like maybe there's just some like smokestacks or something coming off here, in which there's like, after it fires, some stuff like that. But yeah, then in the bottom, I guess this front part is like a sort of like place where the forward like cameras or the forward cockpit is. And actually maybe, yeah, I don't know, I'll have to think about this top part. I think maybe because the turret itself is offset to the right a little bit, the barrel should maybe be offset a bit to the left, or maybe the window is offset to the left, I don't know, but like maybe this barrel right here is not strictly in the middle, but is like the whole turret is a little bit this way and then the barrel is a little bit this way, so it's still a little bit more central, but it's not perfectly symmetrical, and so there's still a lot more like interest there. I was also thinking that like on this side, like on the other side of the barrel, there could be sort of a whatchamacallit, like a second little like porthole or like sensor array that's next to it. But then if we look at these legs, the way the legs were in Pat Labar is like there was basically tubes, right? And then there was this very organic looking shield part, right? And then they basically just had like a insulation tarp over all the joint areas, right? And then it had all these, it had like a claw, and then behind the claw it had the wheel. So let me think, do I want to like do something very similar to that, or do I want to do something a little bit different? I think like, let's think about it for a second. Maybe, I think similar to like this kind of language where stuff is like rounded on top but flat on the bottom, we can like do that here where it's like there's a shield on the very top, but then like there's like an undercarriage of like stuff like hanging out the bottom. I think that's like a little more interesting. Yeah, and then I think doing this like tarp on the joints is like a little too like on the nose, like, hey, I watch Pat Labor and now I'm designing a Pat Labor robot. So I'm gonna omit that entirely and just say that there's these kind of like big ball joints, and that there's also ball joints where they connect. I think this idea that like there's a ball joint here and then there's ball joints at all the like points of articulation is just going to be sort of the unique design language that like I'm using for my mechs. So I'll just like sort of overlay those ball joints. So I want to have like one design for the front leg, like I was saying, and then a different design for the back legs. So let's also look at these back legs. And then for these parts, they have this sort of top armor cover. And then, I don't know, with these ball joints, I guess they would have like a track as kind of like an equator around it, and then things slot into that track, and then they can rotate like this inside the track even if the ball isn't moving. That like mechanically makes sense to me. So like all these should have, well, not like a track on that side, but like it would be like a track here that it uses to pitch, and then these would all have tracks, you know, like this, that's used for the articulation, right? Like it would run along like this. And then is there any other place where I could like add that kind of, I guess like if I add like a ball here, that adds some of the ball language. I don't know if I want to make this more like sort of ball-like and less like just like a little hinge. But so I think basically these back legs are going to have like more of this like bigger shield that extends above, but the front legs aren't, because like obviously this needs to like shoot over them, right? So I think they would have a kind of like shield that like goes to the side like this, but like has a gap in the middle here that like the tank is expected to shoot through. So let's see if this, I'm not totally confident in what I'm doing right now, but like let's just say that there's like a hole right there, and then these wheels go through that hole, and then there's like a rigging behind here that these wheels like rig into. But yeah, just for reference, like the prime, like it can like lift up its legs and like stomp around in like certain terrain, but then it also has wheels so that it can like move pretty quickly. I think another difference between the front legs and the back legs is that the front legs, the wheels are kind of like oriented this way, like they're forward, but on the back legs, I think the wheels would actually be kind of like sideways, right? So like it would actually just be like an axis of the wheel coming through here. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. I may need to see how that looks in 3D to see if that is like a good idea or not. It could also just be that like these are just like round wheels on the bottom, and that like there's some type of like gimbal or like ball and socket joint that lets them rotate so that they can go sideways or they can go forward back. You know what? That makes so much more sense. I don't need to like justify how it can strafe versus how it can go forward, backward. I can just be like, yeah, these wheels, those just align to the direction that you're going. And I think when I start doing the technical animation work to like really get all the individual little parts going, I think what I'll do is I'll just check the speed for each wheel and then I will just rotate it, like I will twist it like along the like leg axis to like be oriented the correct way, and then I'll spin it right around its like wheel axis to match the ground movements. That like when it's going slow, you'll see it going slow, but then when it's fast, you'll see it going fast. And I think actually, compared with like those, like this like pat labor leg, in which it's got like a small wheel hidden behind like a claw, I think I really want to emphasize the wheels. I think they should actually be like a lot bigger. So yeah, this shape down here is making less and less sense. So let me think. I think it's just like it comes and then it kind of like extends out this way to like make room for this wheel that's below it. And then it's got these little hinges that connect into the wheel, so it's the wheel can twist this way and then it rolls this way. And then these forward ones, like I think are kind of special. They'll just sort of poke out that way. And then I did like, I think if I'm like remembering correctly, there was like a part that protruded here in the Pat Labor version where they had like a big like pin joint right there. So I actually like that design. So I like the idea that there's a thing that like connects right up into this rigging on the bottom there. So like this comes in a little bit, and you know, we can like theme that as like a big bolt or something. And like maybe there's like another big bolt right here that we imagine is bolting into the twisting mechanism, right, which is back here. And that would also be right here, right? So there's like these big bolts. Is this looking good? Everyone's kind of quiet in the chat, but let me know. So I think that's, I mean, I think the only other things for the legs is that they've got stuff underneath, right? Like we just need to know that there's like various undercarriage things, which I imagine is very like greebly, and it's more like engine parts. So like, it's not a great illustration, but where did I put my clock? What time is it? Where are we at? Okay, we're only a quarter of the way in. We're doing pretty good. I think we're gonna get into Blender before we're even like halfway done with this. But so the next part then is this like main body, and I think what I'm gonna do is actually yank this down and add another layer, and then we'll just draw like over top of everything. And actually I'm gonna go in and erase this thing that I drew, so that we can just draw all of that on the new layer. So up here, we have this shield in the front, right, which has some like hinge attachment or something, like it swings up for like maintenance or something. And then we have this main body, which we know has to have like portholes for these legs in like those locations. Here, let me make this a little easier to see. So thinking about it, I guess what makes sense is that there would be like, I'm trying to decide, is it like the shape of this sort of cuts in wherever those legs are, so that it kind of looks like this? I don't know if I like that. I'm trying to think, is that, there's got to be something more interesting. It could be like there's a cover that goes over each of these legs. this cover would be oriented like this. And then it just has its own shape behind them. Actually, I think that cover should be like part of the legs. What do we want to do? Do we want, like, maybe this needs to be like somehow broken into two shapes, or like maybe this is more rounded, like it's rounded this way and it's rounded this way. So we end up with a kind of soft seam up here, and it just, I don't think it should just like mirror this like shape on the top, like you just stacked two of them on top of each other. Or maybe that's fine. What if it's like, let's see, right now it's like a box that's like this. What we could do is like, let me think, like maybe it's got, it goes up into these, I think these canisters are actually like basically the right shape. I like these beveled corners. And then like it can have some type of, I'll do like a normal map thing where it has these kind of like army ammo box looking things on them and some handles on top, like some greebles. So like I'm feeling pretty good about those. I think it's basically just, how does it interface with the limbs? How does it interface with this part on the front? And then how does it interface with the tank turret? Like maybe it actually has an elevated platform on this side, or like an L shape that the tank turret goes into, and then it has like on this side like a little sensor array. Well, this one has to be pretty low, right? It can't have any like antennas sticking up. But like maybe on the back here, these are connect. Oh, we can do the like maybe the ball thing again, where these are connected on like big ball joints on the back. That it, actually the tracks would be like this way, so that like I guess it could like lower them down when they're doing maintenance, and then they can like pull them off and then clip them back in, and then they zoop zoop come back up. So there's also like a track that runs up and down, so when they like remove those ammo containers, it like pulls them down and then does it. I think actually for this thing here, rather than being like a camera with a hood, I wonder if it's like I bring back this like dome shape, but then the dome has like a bunch of these like pods on it, and it's like a 360 180 sensor array, and then it's on top of this thing right here that the turret slots into, so there's sort of like another little elevated thing. And then this main part, I guess it like it's curved, and then it has like a fin in the back, right? But then it's curved this way in the front. I guess it's fine to do it that way. So like the side, the profile looks like this. And then there's like two things there for the, I guess it's this language like we did with the limbs, where it's not like a full tube, but it's like there's a piece of armor that's sitting on top of it. And this is just like covering up like an undercarriage. Oh my goodness, I keep switching to eyedropper tool. So this would be a lot smoother. And then on the front here, maybe it like, well, it's gotta have the corner here cut out to make room for these ball joints. But then maybe it also has a cutout and this sticks out front. No, I don't like that. I think these things need to be like bolted onto the front like this. And then maybe it's like it's rounded here. So then this kind of like follows that curve, but then like makes it into a kind of, that looks bad. So this part, it's like a rounded curve here, but then it kind of like has this hinge joint. I'm not like totally thinking this through, but we can have like the big bolts that we have on the limbs there. Yeah, and then this face is just kind of like, there's a panel on the front. I think actually what we want is not for there to be cutouts for the front limbs. I think what we actually want is that it just does it does this look too much like I just dripped frosting on top of it? I don't know. Let's see. I really don't like what I just drew, so we're just gonna forget that I ever drew that. But here, let's erase this. Maybe it's that there's no sides at all, and it's just on the top. So it comes in this way. So there's basically just like one slab of metal that sits on top, and then underneath it's like a bunch of like engines and greebles and stuff. And that like the design flaw of this, the like real weak point, is that it has like, not like in a gameplay sense. In the gameplay sense, you just gotta shoot. But like in like a imagining the fiction sense, it's the fact that like the sides and the back of the chest, like it only has like a piece like this, but then the sides and the back are all this like exposed mechanisms and like engine works and like things. And so it's like maybe it has like one big armored disc on the bottom to like protect it against like walking over a like a landmine, but like otherwise where all the other parts sort of like meet it, like where the limbs connect in and where the ammo packs connect in, that like has to be exposed in order for it to be articulated. So let's kind of like bring this back. Let's just look at it. Yoink that. So now in this version, I want this to actually be raised up a bit because we put it on top of this thing. I think, let's see. So maybe this is also like a slab that goes like this, just mirroring these two parts. I say mirroring, but it's like the design principle here is repetition. Like, I don't know a better way to put it other than people see the same thing twice and it makes their brain feel good. That's like one trick of design. But and then this curves under, and like maybe there's a big bolt here that's similar to these bolts, and then yeah, well, I guess this is just like another leg back here, right? So this would be that's the big twister mechanism. I'm just filling in these real quick. This comes out like that. Has a little piece of armor. So I guess this slab, we can just throw on top of it. It needs to come in like this. Like it needs to basically clip that corner. And then like, I guess like it's kind of curved that way. We want to do that up top too. Yeah, I guess that's pretty good. So then I'll just sketch in these parts real quick. Let me move this thing out of the way. So these have big armor plates that come up, that cover up that part. And then they've got armor plating on the top, but not on the undercarriage. And then they've got all this like greebly bits back here, and then the big wheel piston twister thing. So I think this is like as far as designs go, pretty good. I think this is at least like good enough to like basically direct us as we go into Blender. So let's model this. And we know we have, yeah, so let me check. Okay. I am going to take a real quick break to visit the bathroom. I'll be back in 5 minutes, and then we're gonna crack open Blender. So let me just open this. 5-minute viewing break. In Blender. Just put this down here where everyone can see it. Ah. Cool. I will be back in 5 minutes. Stay tuned. So, I'm back. Oh, look at that. I left the microphone on this whole time. Cool. I'm going to take the music mix down a little. Is that too loud? My voice is coming in at like the good range. The music is okay. Cool. So, let's model this. I have my original Blender file that I made the placeholder assets in. So, since I'm not, I mean, I think the only real change I made to the proportions was to, let's move that down. I think the only real proportion change that I made was to like move that cannon up a little bit, right? But I didn't really need to do, I think I like kind of nailed the proportions on the first try. So I think I'm gonna start with this cannon itself, like the turret, and then if that's looking pretty good, we can like swap that out in the engine, and then I'm guessing that'll take us basically to lunchtime, because I'm not a fast 3D modeler and there's some like time to do the like integration, but maybe that'll go faster than we think, and we can actually get started on one of these legs as well. This is probably a case, I would say, that I'm gonna like do part of it, and then I'm gonna do one leg, and then I'm gonna do the other leg, and then I'm gonna do the chassis. And by the time I'm doing the chassis, it looks so much better because I've gotten so much more like back in the groove and like comfortable with Blender that I'm gonna want to go back and like redo the turret a second time so that it matches the quality of everything else. So, you know, that's just sort of like one of the realities of kind of like creative work that like maybe people who don't work in production don't really appreciate, which is that it's like pretty normal to have to do some things twice. Like it's very rare that you like knock it out of the park on like your first try. So you kind of have to like add plus 50% time in whatever you think, just to account for like the number of things that you're gonna like naturally do over. But so here's Blender. Zoop. Zoop. I will I guess I will put this just like in the corner here so we can see it, but it's not like covering up the chat or anything. That can be our like quick little referencey diddle. But let's open up, it should be like in recent files, right? Open recent placeholder tank parts. So here we go. The last time, or I guess it was 2 weeks ago, what we did was we like modeled these parts and then I rigged them up really quickly so that they're articulated in the game. So we have here the turret, we have the chassis, and we have the legs. Oop. Where are the legs though? Oh, do I need to? There we go. Yeah, you can see everything got like moved to the center of the scene, basically just because I wanted, that's like the position that I wanted to export everything. So like I had like modeled everything and then I moved it all to the center. I think I'm going to keep them at the center though, because like actually you can see this geometry on these legs. I did it really quickly, but it was all super junky and it's basically just kind of like hard to work at an angle in Blender. Maybe there's a better way to do that and somebody can explain it to me. Jack Me Nimble says, hi Max. Hi Jack. Look at this tank. We're gonna make this tank. I mean, I already made like a kind of crummy low poly tank, but now I'm gonna try and flex my muscles and making it look better. I think my general strategy for this stuff, and here we can like hide everything except return. Wait, no. You need to hold shift while hiding in Blender, otherwise it doesn't hide children. That's so annoying. But yeah, we can just come in here. I think it's a period on the, no, it's not F. Oh, I think, do I select and then, there we go. So in Blender, you can select things and you can press period on the keyboard, and that's like pressing F for focus in Maya. I still have like, rigging in Blender confuses me. Yeah, rigging in Blender confuses me too. It's mainly just because instead of just having joints like you do in Maya, you have these bones that have like each one has like 2 joints, but then when you connect them up, they like share the tip to the end joint. It's very strange. It's also like annoying. You can like globally control the orientation, but you can't like, I don't think you can do it per bone. Anyway. I think a lot of the like design that we did are these like slabs of armor that are like on top of, right, like a bunch of like greebles and rigging. So like for this, here we'll zoom in on the turret specifically. I think what I want to do is basically like lay down just like a sheet of polygons. Like I think I'm just gonna make like a quad and then go by just like extruding edges. And then Blender has these modifiers, right? So I think one is called solidify, and that takes basically like a flat sheet of polygons and turns it like into a shape. And then I think the second thing that I want to do, I don't know if it's before or after that modifier, is use a subdivision modifier with like a very small number of subdivisions, but that will turn it right into this more like organic shape. But like modifiers in Blender are all non-destructive, so that means like I can still edit those original polygons, and I'll see all the modifiers just like turn that into something bigger. So let's just like try that for now. I think one thing I can do is, so I need to make a new collection, and I'll call this like version 2, and I'll call this collection version 1. And then I think there's a way to make these like not editable. I swear to God, there was a thing that I did before which caused like more icons to appear. Oh my goodness, what did I do? Let's never do that again. Is it, oh yeah, here it is. So like you can add more toggles. So this one is like select, you can say if it's selectable. I don't know what holdout means. But I think selectable is the one that I want, where I want to come in here and say that like none of this is selectable, right? So it's visible, but like I can't do anything with it. Cephalopod Salad says, hey, finally caught you live. I've followed you on Twitter for ages and really loved watching your progress on Nightshift Galaxy. Ah, thank you very much. The status of the project right now is like, just to basically give like a minor update, is that earlier this year I heeded a bunch of advice that had been given when we were trying to seek funding for the project last year, which was survive to 25. And so mostly like January through May this year was focused on like keeping the demo nice, working on very like marketable and like sizzle features, and like talking to potential publishers. And I'm pretty sure that we bombed out again. You know, I'm not an economist. I can't explain how every pitch went good and nobody gave us a term sheet, other than like, I don't know, maybe the tariffs were terrible, or like maybe, you know, the market just hasn't quite recovered yet, but not a great time to be pitching indie games. So I have basically gone into a kind of like low-key mode where I'm doing a lot more like creative planning to say like, okay, what does this game look like if I finish it on my own? Because I don't just want to like put all that sizzle stuff out and then be like, and this is not a real game, I'm taking down the Steam page, bye. But like also it's obviously not going to be like a giant AAA indie game. I want it to look a little bit better than just making everything like low poly Star Fox 64 stuff. But like it does definitely have to be stuff that like I can, you know, make more efficiently in Blender. And I'm also trying to like sort of justify that in the gameplay. So like one idea I have is like, instead of having very detailed environments, I have simpler environments, but all the pieces of the environment are like damageable or destroyable, so that like the space is more interactive and like wherever you shoot something happens. It's not like a quadruple A game where like half the stuff you shoot is just like a static prop and like you see a bullet spack and then nothing happens. But in the meantime, I also need to like replenish my savings for a bit. So I've been doing more freelancing, and this has basically gone from like a project that I'm working on 40 hours a week to a project I'm working on like 10 to 20 hours a week. Onikaze says, the entire industry is bracing for a downturn. Yeah, well, I mean, we've been bracing for a downturn for years, basically ever since like Embracer turned the European game dev market into like a subprime mortgage crisis. But sorry to hear about the funding issues, the highs and lows of it. Yeah, I mean, like, the idea of being like an indie and getting funding on like your first game is actually a pretty tall order. So like, you know, I'm like proud of the progress that we made. I'm bummed that we didn't get funding, but it's also not like super surprising, right? Like, so, you know, maybe like the destiny of Nightshift is that it's like a smaller but like more sort of gameplay intense and interesting games. And then if like I have other like ideas down the road, or like the collaborators that I've been working with have other ideas down the road, like maybe it's the feather in our cap that gets us funding for something else. I'm trying to remain positive. It's very hard to remain positive in America in 2025 in Los Angeles, where like we now have like a Gestapo or whatever, but like trying to remain positive. Anyway, let's go back here. So I think I want this turret. I think there's definitely a market for shorter focused experience. Perfect. I love a 68-hour games because I don't have time for anything longer. Yeah, it's interesting. We'll see. But yeah, in the meantime, I'm basically just like trying to go back to like basics on like essentially not questions of like how does the game work, but questions of workflow. Like how do I actually build a level? Like I break them into modules, and then how long does it take me to make a module, and how many modules do I need, and then how long does it take to actually put a bunch of modules together. So like the naive way of just using Unreal, the way Unreal is meant to be used by a giant team of like 20 to 50 people is like obviously not going to work for me. So, you know, I've talked a bit in the past about like the scaffold tool or the grid tool that like I've been making to try and do more like automatic arrangement of stuff. And like I don't quite have my like finger on it, but like I'm starting to feel like, you know, like a blurry JPEG downloading and becoming sharper and sharper. Like I think it's coming into focus, even if I like don't totally visualize yet what it looks like. And I've also been just trying to do more art and less programming lately, just to like, you know, get the gears turning and like get me like feeling better. Anyway, I think if I look at this turret, I think there's like somewhere in here, there's a thing that's like viewport display settings or something in which you can, oh, I have the armature selected. I want to select the geometry. There's like something where you can display it as wireframe rather than as display as wire. There we go. Display as wire. Okay, cool. So like maybe that's hard for you guys to see, but like it's faded into the background. I like have it to reference it, but I can't select it. And so this is just going to be like a reference for like size and stuff. Actually, before I go in and do that, I think I scaled some of this stuff when I was assembling it in the engine. So let me see if I scaled any of these pieces. So the tank turret looks like this was scaled. Yeah, this was scaled up 1.333. So actually, I think that's something else I should do. I should come in here and 1.333, just like make it bigger so that the next thing that I export, like I won't need to scale it anymore. It will just be 111. That's another advantage to like starting with jank assets and then going back, is that like you can make the janky asset, you can put it in, you can do all this scaling and other things that are like really not kosher for production, but then you can just bake all of those things into the real asset when you do like we're gonna do. But like I was saying, let's start by adding a plane. Wait, I want to make sure I'm in this. Let's just hide this so it's not distracting. So Shift A to add something, and then I add a plane. When you add things in Blender, this like property panel comes up. This is where you can change any of the like input properties of the thing that you're making. But I think this is fine. Once it's in, I immediately go tab. So instead of like dragging this around immediately, like that's dragging the object around, it's not dragging the geometry around. I actually want to go into the object so that the object stays at the origin, but I'm like now dragging the geometry around. So G, Shift X to move in the X plane, so I can move it up here, right? And then press 2 for edges. Then you can actually say GG, like press G twice. G is grab, it's what they mean when they say translate. But like GG lets you slide an edge along one of the surfaces that it's connected to. So I can do it along this surface. That's like a really handy, quick thing. So, so the text has started to cover stuff up, but like, yeah, you get it down here, you can sort of see we're building this thing. Cephalopod Salad says, you've got this. You do really cool and unique work, and as art, it's inherently valuable. Well, I think all art is inherently valuable, but thank you so much. So that was just GY to move it along the y-axis. In Blender, it's weird. I've gotten inconsistent reports about this, but at least from modeling in Blender and then exporting with default settings and then importing into Unreal with default settings, -y is the forward direction, right? And Z is the up direction. So whenever you want to move stuff forward and backward, it's always GY. So I can say EY. G was for grab, E is for extrude. I'm extruding a new face from this edge. And I can actually, I think I can like go, yeah, sideways. Maybe this is kind of hard to see. It's just like 1 pixel and you can't really see it, but I can say, oops. I can say E and I can make another. And then we basically just want to round off the front of this thing. So there we go. If I ever want to add any details, I can press 3. And I think it's, nope, R is rotate. It's, what is it? There is a, no, E is extrude. This is one that I keep, Control R? Yeah. Control R basically lets you subdivide. You can drag it left and right. You can, or you can use right click to put it directly in the middle. You can also use the mouse wheel to say how many subdivisions you want. So I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to give this like a little bit more geometry. There we go. So there's that's just like a sheet. we're gonna need to scale along the x-axis to make it a little wider. I think actually what I want to do at this point is, I know that this is going to be symmetric, so I think I'm going to actually have if I tab out to object level, I press N opens up these like slide out menu. Tool view, where is it? Oh, is there like extensions that I need to, because I know there was like certain things I didn't add to this project file. Get extensions, allow online access, add-ons. I thought there was like a mirror tool that I had. Yeah, auto mirror. Let's grab that guy. Let's get bool tools. Let's add that guy. I think there's some other extensions that I've used by default before, but here we go. Here's auto mirror. So what auto mirror lets you do is saying, hey, we want your mirror across it. There's like some like annoying setup to get mirroring to work correctly, but this basically lets you just click one button and then bada bing, it's like all good. So now you can see on the plus X side, there's actually a wireframe displayed, and that's because that is real geometry. That's actually like source data. And then if I click the wrench over here, you can see on the left side, that is being produced by the mirror modifier. So if I go to like vertex select mode, and I say like GX, right, you can see everything is being like nicely mirrored now. So we can start pulling this in, giving this like more of a shape. I don't know if that's exactly the shape that I'm going to want, but it has a attractive feel to it for now. So maybe this comes out a little. Comes out. Anyway, so let's do the thing that I was talking about before, which is like we want to solidify this. And let me look at it from the top. Actually, I think this is still in a little too much, but why am I fine-tuning when I don't even know if this fine-tuning is correct? Anyway, we'll go to our modifier stack over here. I'll make this a little bit bigger so that you can see it. And I will collapse that because we don't care about all its parameters. But the things that we want is the solidify modifier and the subdivision modifier. So here's solidify. And then you can see its thickness is right now just a centimeter, but we can make that bigger, right? There's like 2 decimeters. Maybe that's thick enough. Maybe we want to go like 1/4 of a meter. Let's go 1/4 of a meter. And then we can add the subdivision surface modifier, and that is going to make this, right, so you see I come in here and now I still have this source data, but it's producing like this geometry. I think this is like too much geometry. I think I only want 1 subdivision level. But I do think that like, one thing I want to do is I want to use that Control R tool. And I want to, this is one of the things that you can use. This is part of like a broader topic of what's called subdivision modeling. This is the idea that like you're not going to model specifically the end vertices, but you're going to model this like surface or cage from which the subdivision model is subdivided. And the idea behind that is basically that what you want is like clean topology, and then you want to like add edge loops close to edges to like control generally like where there's more geometry and where there's less geometry. But that also you want to maintain quads, right? because quads subdivide in a really predictable way, whereas like triangles or other n-gons will subdivide unpredictably. So we can like come in here and like slide this out. I use that like GG command again, which just let you slide along the surface. So that's producing, like if we look at this just in wireframe, oh, I guess wireframe with subdivision only shows you the original wireframe. So now my question is like, we have these two modifiers, solidify and subdivision. Here's how it looks like when I first solidify it, then subdivide it. If I switch the order, here's how it looks if I subdivide it and then solidify it. You can see now the sides are like very sharp. And if I like took that up, I think this is like too much geometry like I was saying before, but. So I'm wondering, I think even though it like as geometry kind of like looks better to solidify it and then subdivide it, I wonder if it's adding too much geometry on the side here, because like another thing you could do is take it like this and then basically use a normal map to like basically bevel the edge. Like we can do some of that already in Blender just using like the shading system. So here, let me click over to shading. Oh my goodness, clicking over to shading has caused Blender to seize up. Why did that happen? Uh-oh, now it's gone white. This is why we're gonna, oh, okay, here we go. Apparently it just had to load a bunch of stuff. But like one of the things you can do, yeah, so here I just like added a new material to it, but we can, what was it? There's a way that, I've done this so many times and yet I've forgotten all about it. We can say add, it's just like the bevel modifier, and then this produces a normal map that we can plug into here. And then I think this one actually requires us, if I go to like render settings, I think I need to be in cycles. I think I want to do it on the GPU. And then I think we need to go to render mode, because this is like a thing that you would need to bake out. So now, oh no, this is actually, I wonder if using compute is bad because it's messing with my stream. Let's go back to CPU. Is this better? Oh, no, it's still... I bet my stream gets really bad every time this re-renders. But just to show you this real quick, we can do like 0.1, 0.2. This is coming in and it's, at least in theory, beveling these corners. And like essentially what you would do, oh my goodness, my feed is so bad when I do that. But essentially the way that this workflow works is that you have very simple geometry, but then you have a normal map which rounds out that harsh edge. And you can bake this normal map out. And then once you've baked it out, you just basically apply it in the Unreal material, and that produces basically like the effect of seeing it at a bevel without adding all that additional geometry. And I actually think I like that more. So I think that's like basically what I'm gonna do. Now we're gonna turn cycles off because, I don't know, chime in the chat, but did my stream just like completely die the moment I tried to do a render live? Anyway, going back to modeling here. So Let's see what our like solidify options are. If there's like any materials, edge data, thickness clamp, crease inner, crease outer, and rim. I don't know what any of these things mean. Only rim? I don't know what that means. Oh, I see. You can, rim is this like section that it's adding. I don't know what even thickness means. I also don't know what this offset means. Well, I guess like with offset, it's like, do you want it to go in, do you want it to go out, or do you want it to be in the middle? So -1 means it's like offsetting in, like in the negative normal direction. Well, there's several modes here. Here's simple, and then here's complex, which is, it looks the same, but it seems to have more options. What do we have here? Thickness mode, even, thickness mode, fixed, thickness mode, constraints, boundary, round, boundary, flat. Why would we do that? Thickness offset, and then, oh, there's a merge threshold. Let's do like an auto merge. These look no different to me. I guess I'll use simple because that's probably more computationally inexpensive. Anyway, now we can come in here and I think this needs to be like rounded in at the top, maybe. And then like, actually, do I need this extra loop? Let's see. So I can control click to get the whole loop. You can say X to delete, and then you can delete it or you can dissolve it. So dissolve edge basically leaves the adjacent geometry intact. Anyway, comparing this to our reference here, I think that's like basically, I guess I didn't do as much. Yeah, actually, I kind of like how I didn't take this in. I don't know why I went with this like bell shape. Let's change that. I can press N to like hide that. Yeah, let's basically keep these just sort of insetting there, but then it's basically flat here, and then it just rounds off a little bit towards the top. Cool. So I think that's pretty good for like this part. I guess the next part is the barrel. So the barrel we talked about, it has like a horseshoe shape on top, and I think we can use the like solidify modifier for that as well. And then like maybe there's like another barrel like underneath that horseshoe shape, right? Because it's this idea that there's always armor on top and then there's always mechanics on the bottom is sort of like our like design rule for this thing. Yeah, so let's try and do that. I am going to stay. Do I want to stay inside this, or do I think I'm going to add another object. So let's start with just like a cylinder. Let's take the number of vertices way down. Let's do 8. Do we want to take the radius of this down a bit? Cap. I don't actually, do I want a cap? I'll just leave the caps off for now. Great. So let's go in and edit this. If we look at it from the top down, I don't like that it's this way. What is 360 divided by 8? $360 divided by 8 is going to be 45 degrees, right? Result undefined. What? 360 divided by 8 is 45. Yeah. So I can say, this is one of the nice things about Blender. You can just type in values rather than dragging them. So I can say R, Z, 45. Oops. I wanted actually half of 45. What's half of 45? That's like, what? 22.5, right? My brain is not working today. I'm just going to use the calculator again. 40. Why calculator? I need you when I type. There we go. 45 divided by 2, 22.5. So here I can say, actually, oh, it came up here, 22.5. Boop. There we go. So now, oh, you know what? I bet these things are blue because I've got, yeah, vertex weight visualization enabled. That's why they were so dark. So I can press A to select everything. I can say RX90 to put it this way. We can look at this from the side, and then I can just move it in here, right? And then what was it? It wasn't skew. There was like a slanting option that I used to skew this before. I think I tweeted about it. Let me search my own social media feed. Would it be helpful if I typed the word Blender right? Shear, they call it shear. So in order to shear in Blender, you say like F3, which just gives you like a type anything command console. Then you can say shear, and now we can come in here and you see shear is like not like rotating, right? Like rotating would be I'm going like gert, 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 whereas shearing is like I'm taking the top and the bottom, right? And I'm doing this. So let's line that up with how I sheared it before. Looking great, looking great. You can make it a bit bigger. So now, actually, do we want to grab maybe shear these the other way. Cool. So I've got this barrel, but I want the barrel to have, right, like a, like it should, at the end here, be like a bit bigger. So like, I guess one way I could do that is I can like do a cut. Actually, if I'm gonna do a cut, I should unshear that. So like one way is I could do like a cut here, and then I could do another cut here. And then we can select all these faces. Is it control select? Yeah. So in Blender, you can control select, and it will do everything in between, like the white selection and where you clicked. And then I think it's Shift, not Shift S, Alt S. Okay, that wasn't great. There should be like, yeah, I guess like I can just like scale this up. This is not like super clean. Let me see, how did we... Actually, when I designed this, it was sheared on the front, but it was straight up and down on the back. So actually, let's do this that way. So I can do this cut, I can come in here, And then, how do I make these straight up and down? I think I can just say like SY0. Great. Actually, let's do that for these vertices too. When I selected these, I went to wireframe, I box selected, and I went out of wireframe because like when you're in solid select mode, it'll only select stuff that's facing you, whereas when you're in wireframe mode, it selects everything. So because I wanted to get these vertices on the far side, I had to use wireframe down. So SY0, make that up and down. Then I can do more horizontal cuts. And I can go to control select around this. It's not working there for some. Oh, shift select. I want to shift select around. Nope. Control shift select. Sure, why not? Let's just use all the modifiers. But now I'll just like scale this up. And then I think it's actually like a little small on the bottom. So let's go back to wireframe here. Let's select these faces. GY. Pull it back this way. It's pretty good. There is a way to select edge loops. Is it control shift? Is it double click? Let's Google that real quick here. Blender select edge loop. Like I'm pretty sure in Maya it's just double clicking, which is why I never remember. But shortcut Alt left mouse button or Shift Alt left button if you want to add it. So if I say Alt, there we go. Great. So now I can say F to fill this in. That gives us all this geometry in here. I can say I to inset to start pulling geometry into this. And then I can say E, and I can say Y to then push in. And then maybe we say SY0 to make this straight up and down. And pull it all the way back to there. Cool. So I don't think I actually need to solidify this. But I do wonder what it will look like if I subdivide it. Well, that's definitely looking like something. I don't know if I like it. Here, let's turn it off for level display. I think to get it controlled, I would need to add an edge loop right here, and I would need to add an edge loop right here. And then if I turn it back on, that kind of does that, but I actually kind of don't like that. Let's get rid of those edge loops. Let's get rid of this subdivision modifier. What are we going to do about this barrel? I mean, I do think there is like shade smooth, which I could be doing for this. I can say shade smooth for this. Yeah, and then the way, oh, this is interesting. I wonder if I select, no, it's not shift, it's control select, yeah. You can come in here and you can say mark sharp. Yeah, it looks like that marks this top part sharp, but it doesn't make this other side sharp. But another thing that you can do instead of mark, so like when you shade things smooth, right, it's gonna just average the normal across the creases, unless you either explicitly call it a crease or you use this modifier. Is it smooth by angle? That's what it is. Yeah, so it looks like this is getting us slightly nicer results. It's a little strange. I don't know. Anyway, maybe this is the sort of thing where I just need to like bake out these modifiers and then manually go in and increase it. Doing it after the subdivision is more stable, but it only puts one crease like in the middle. Is that okay? Maybe that's interesting. I'll leave it for now. This one we want to smooth by angle. So there we go. That has it. Can hide all this other stuff. It has it smooth going around. Did I make a mistake of only having 8 sides? I mean, this thing is like pretty big. I think I made a mistake by only putting 8 sides on this. I think I should do this over. Let's do it over. Okay, so if I make a cylinder, and then what if instead of 8 vertices we had 12, 14? 16? Is 16 too many? Is 16 just enough? Let's do 16. So now we want to come in here and let's just redo all the stuff I did, but hopefully do it faster this time. Faces, scale them up, pull them forward, select these vertices, shear them, which is actually there's a hotkey for shear. It is Shift Control Alt S, all the modifiers S. My muscle memory for Shift Control Alt S is like the like Photoshop export. Anyway, we can pull that in. Let's get rid of this old cylinder. So this new one, let's say smooth by angle. That looks so much better. Why didn't I just do that in the first place? Anyway, edges, we can fill. We can inset, and we can extrude along the y-axis, scale y0, and pull it in till about there. Okay, so there's the barrel. Although one of the ideas I had when I was sketching, right, was that, oh, what am I doing? The whole point of this barrel was, I made this whole point about the fact that this barrel was going to be horseshoe shaped and not cylinder shaped, and then I went ahead and just made a cylinder. Okay, let's get rid of all that stuff. Let's go back to here. Let's hide this old. Let's hide that. Okay, what we need to do is change this from a cylinder into a horseshoe. So I think the way to do that, I think first we need to, okay, this is 16-sided. What's, now I do need to use a calculator, as opposed to before where it was embarrassing. But this is 360 degrees divided by 32 sides, 11.25. So we can say rotate Y 11.25, enter. And now, yeah, it's flat on the top and it's flat on the side. So what we can do is we can select all these vertices down here and delete them. And by deleting them and not just dissolving them, it actually gets rid of the adjacent geometry as opposed to like leaving the bottom connected. So now we have this like arc shape. I think at this point what I want to do is pop out to the object level and use that auto mirror tool. Where was it? Edit, auto mirror, boop. So that I only need to edit one side of this. And then I think what we want to do is select edges. We want to extrude vertically to basically pull that down. And then maybe grab the X direction, pull it in a little bit. And then we can extrude in the X direction and pull that into the middle. So now we have this like more horseshoe shape. Now I think what I want to do is pull this back a bit. Well, it's actually, do we want this connected on the bottom? I wonder. I think I should delete this face. And what we want is this to like be sitting on top of a barrel that's inside of it. So I do actually also want a cylinder. This is why you should like think for 2 seconds before doing stuff. I'll pull this up a little bit. So now let's add, I'll do this as a separate object. Add a cylinder. Let's come in here, RX90, scale it down. GZ, pull it up inside of here a little bit. GY, make it pull forward a little bit. Let's say S, Shift Y to only scale like the radius. Let's take this dingus. Let's add that solidify modifier. We'll make it the same point, maybe not the same 0.25 as the outside, maybe like 0.15 or 0.125, so it's like half of the thickness of this other thing. Let's also smooth by angle. Let's say 45 degrees. So I guess do I want it to be connected on the bottom, or how was I thinking about this? It's like the barrel is horseshoe shaped and then there's this thing in the front. Let's like modify this all a little bit. Get the shape a little different. Okay, I don't know why I'm once again fine-tuning when I like, it's like way too early for that, but. So we have this barrel. We don't want the solidify on it. Here, let's put that bottom back on. And let's like just get rid of this for now. come back here. I think I can like Control B to bevel this to add just like a little geometry on the bottom there. And like, let's come in here. Let's fill this in like we did before. Then add these subdivisions. Then grab this side. We can shear it. Yep. I missed a vertex because I wasn't in wireframe mode. Actually, let's show what we had before. But like, let's also, there's a quick way to just be like, hey, make this wireframe, whatever. We'll do it this slow way. Viewport display, show as wire. Wait. Why are you not showing as wire? Oh man, when you're editing an object, even if you select something else in the thing over there, that's confusing. Okay. Now let's get these proportions correct. Pull this here, pull this here, shear it to the right size, go into face select mode, get these faces, scale them. I'm just going to do it Shift Y. That looks terrible. Okay, so now I think we can delete this. So now we have this barrel that's got that flat bottom like I wanted. And then maybe there's like a circular barrel inside it, or does it just have that aperture the way it is? Let's come in here at least and like try and like inset. Oh, undo. Just want to inset this. Wait, there is a way, like, inset B. There we go. This is like a cool pro tip, right? So like when I inset this, I don't actually want to inset this line here. DJ Coil says, ahoy from Blue Sky. Hello, DJ Coil. Welcome to the stream. Basically, I mean, just to catch you up, I drew and designed this like tank, and now we've started modeling it. So like when you inset by default, like it's just going to inset every direction, and that's really not what you want when you're mirroring things. So if you press inset, if you look at the bottom, the very bottom, this might be hard for you to see, but there's all these different options of different ways of insetting, and it gives you the hotkeys for them, which is very helpful. And one of them is highlighted B for boundary. And what that means is that it's not going to inset the boundary side, right? So any sides which like don't have a face on the other side, which in this case technically it doesn't, because the other side is being filled in by a mirror operator. So insetting with the boundary is like a pretty easy way to basically come in like that, but like not come in on this center line. So now you can say extrude along the y-axis, pull it back, scale y0. Let's look at it from the side in wireframe. Let's grab along the y-axis and pull it back as far as we can. Shift Z to go back to solid mode. So there we go. Is that like too thin? I wonder if when I did this, I need to make it like a little thicker. There we go. Not that much thicker, but like good enough. And then does this still have that smooth by angle modifier? Yeah, I wonder if we take it down. Some of that is getting smooth and some of it isn't. Let's come in here. If we go down to like 20. Okay, that's like, is there a magic angle or is there not a magic angle? This isn't great, but I actually kind of like it. I kind of like that it puts this like hard seam on like the top and then on the bevel on the bottom. It's not what I wanted, but I'll keep it. I mean, later what's going to happen is I'm going to bake out all these modifiers and I'm going to hand edit their results to get it just right. So I'll modify those seams later. But so now we have the turret coming out the front, and we can come in here and grab these, pull it forward a little bit more. No big deal, but whatever. And then do we want to have, like oh, excuse me. I am wondering if there should be like a cylinder, like inside. So let's see. If we come in here, shrink that down, RX 90 degrees, grab it, bring it in here, scale it down some more. Let's edge select, out click, and fill the cap. Select everything. Let's scale in the Y plane. Grab and Y and move it back a little bit. Let's actually grab it and move it up, so it's like inside here. And then I'll put a smooth by angle modifier on this. And maybe take that up to, oh, ignore sharpness. There we go. How's that looking? Does it need to be bigger? Is it weird that there's those gaps on the bottom? Maybe this is just like inside there, so it's like zip. I think that's kind of interesting. I mean, once I color it, it'll be better. Back a little bit more. Maybe if it was like rounded off inside of there, like maybe if it wasn't like totally a cylinder, but it was like kind of a sphere, so that there's like a rounded thing inside. Actually, I think I want to do that. So that's like a nice opportunity to talk about this interesting thing, which is how do I make a capsule in Blender? It's actually not that hard. What you do is you add a UV sphere, and that's hell of too much geometry. So we're going to take it down maybe 12 and 12. Let's see. I think that's still too much geometry. 8 and 8. I think it's a good amount of geometry for what we're doing. You just need to make sure, actually, do I need 9 rings? 8 rings. Let's actually, like, I can say Alt G to move it back to the origin. Yeah, okay, it's got a ring on the bottom there. So basically, you want to get a capsule, you add a sphere, and then you do this fun technique of selecting all the top faces and then extruding up. Zoop, now you've got a capsule. So then what we can do is, I don't actually want this backside, so we'll get rid of those faces. We'll scale this whole thing down. Actually, let's scale it relative to the 3D cursor. And then I think it's Shift S to take the cursor back to the world origin, and then we can scale it down like that. And we can grab it, go up here, RX90. We're still, let's go back to the medium point. Okay, I think this is going to look a lot better. Shade it smooth. Okay. When it's highlighted, it looks like there's not enough geometry, but I think there is. So now let's just scale this down so it fits inside that barrel. I think that's pretty good in terms of like having a little dingus inside of there. Whoop. Maybe it like comes almost up to, but not outside the barrel. Now I'm wondering again if I didn't give it enough geometry. What if I subdivided it? I think that's way too much geometry for what it is. I don't think we need that much geometry, but I do think that 8 was not enough. Okay, let's just make it again. So let's make a UV sphere. 12 by 12, I think is better. And we come in here. We do Shift-C, wireframe, 3 faces, extrude along the Z-axis. Pull these faces up. We select the bottom faces, X, delete faces. Scale this whole thing down. Rotate it on the X-axis, bring it over here. Then we delete the old sphere. Come in here, and we're gonna say like shade smooth. I think that's better. It's like halfway to the amount of geometry that subdivision surface was creating. But we can come in here now, scale it up just a little bit. I think like grab the Z and pull it up just a little, and scale it up, pull it down just a little. I think it's pretty good. So that'll be like, I mean, if you look in here, like I just put a sphere inside of there. Like actually, if you go into this blueprint, I just like, in the original, like just put a sphere object in the middle there. Now, that will be like part of this. And actually, let's come in here. Let's pull it forward just a little bit. I did that again. What is that thing I keep doing? Tab 1, wireframe. Thank you. So I think actually its like nose should be like just sticking out. Maybe? And then if we come in here, I think, oh, what happened? I was scaling something weird. There we go. Everything should be scaled up. And this back part, G, Y, should be just inside of here. Yeah, so then the idea was that these guys would actually be like kind of like offset in a little bit, and that there would be something over here. Maybe I like pull this over, move it back, and then we just have like another, I don't know if that's great, but I'll just leave it for now. That's just my placeholder. I think actually what I'm gonna want is like a panel or something. I don't know. Let's actually just go in here and what if I just as an experiment, what if we like sheared this to sort of match that surface and pulled it in? It's something. I don't know if I like it, but it's something. Actually I don't like it. Let's never do that. Let's never speak of that again. What if we added a cylinder that has like the same geometry? We're gonna select this ring, we're gonna fill it in. What if we picked all of this and brought it over here? Sheared this. And there was just like a little, let's say, smooth by angle. Bring that angle up to 45. And now it's like sitting in like a little compartment. Is that interesting? Well, it definitely can't be the same size as this other thing. So what if we just scale both of these down? Well, here. Pull them forward. What are we scaling around? Let's scale around individual origins. That's even worse. Well, I guess they're scaling, their like origins are down yonder. Okay, it's just kind of weird. But they are still scaling together. And we can come in here and like have it like up offset like this, and it kind of looks like the like, it's like there's a second sort of scope eye. Okay, I don't know if I love it, but I'm just going to leave it alone for now. At the very least, I think this, 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 and this need to be like horizontally balanced. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it, but like I guess that way. Okay, so next bit, there's like a solid part on the bottom, and then I think there's this like big bolt. Let's do that big bolt. So obviously we're gonna add another cylinder. I'll take this one up to 16, because this is like a kind of big part. Come in here, our Y90. I'm going to come out, I'm going to auto mirror it. So now we only need to edit this side. I can like fill in. Did it add like a, okay. Is there a redo option? What is redo? Shift Control Z. Excellent. So let's look at this from the side. We can bring this over here, make it a bit bigger. And then I think out click, I keep forgetting. Let's bevel this just a little bit maybe. And then let's add the like cube shape that sits under here. So we're gonna like add a cube, and then we're just gonna keep, I guess, adding geometry until it like sits underneath this like armored panel. I also think this armored panel, I think the solidify can be larger. Alexander Empire says, stopping by to wish you luck on development and stuff. Thank you so much, Alexander. Sometimes I do these streams and nobody shows up and I really question everything. And then sometimes everybody shows up to say nice things and I'm like, hell yeah. Cool. So let's add a cube. Eddie2302 says, I showed up. Hell yeah, Eddie. That's king shit. Let's do the auto mirror like we did before. So I only have to edit the front side. Select everything, like it's kind of like zhuzh it into place here. Here's a cool tip. You can go to face select mode and then you can say Alt S, and that will be translate like along the normal. So that's just like a quick way without having to like do a bunch of junk to get this sort of going the right way. So we'll pull this up here. And obviously we need to take this edge, pull it in here. You can take this edge. Nope. Yep. You can say GY. You kind of want to pull it forward. I think the whole bottom needs to come up. And then I think side needs to come in to fit inside of there. Surprisingly good without even having to add any geometry. So I don't like what's happening over here. I think maybe this needs to kind of like cover up that corner, and then I think in here we need to grab this edge and like pull it in a little bit so that there's like a slant on that side. And then I think this one, can it actually come out like a little bit? I think I actually want that to come out a little bit, and I think this just needs, I think the geometry of this just needs to change. So we can say GX. Yeah, I really wonder if like this piece and this piece could be the same, but I'm not gonna push too hard on that right now. One thing I do want to do is grab this edge and Control B bevel this as well. Then I think this can then come in closer to where it was before because that's beveled, right? Yeah. There's probably... So in my sketch, I didn't really put anything on top. Oh, I guess I was thinking about like maybe there's some handles. But we do have these pipes in the back. I should do those pipes. I think the way, I guess for now, well here, for now, let's shade auto smooth so that looks a little bit better. Although there's still, I don't love what's happening here. What's going on there? I think for starters, this needs to come in and match it more closely. Let's look at this like in orthographic view. I didn't really account for like how this comes. So let's just think about this. Like there are these, I had these smokestacks which are coming out of the back here. So I guess like, I think there kind of needs to be like a, like another cube. Which we can come in here. Sort of have it sticking out the back. I guess what happens is that this edge here also needs to be beveled. I'll bevel it as much as that other one was beveled. And then this kind of like backpack thing will just sort of come up. I mean, I could like actually subdivide and extrude this off of there, but I'll just leave it as is for now. Pull this inside of there, so this is kind of slanted. This is just kind of like an engine block on the back is what I'm kind of imagining. I guess this goes under that armor. And then the pipes will come off of this engine block. Okay, we're after 2 o'clock, but you know what? I'm going to finish this off by doing the pipes that are sticking off the back real quick. And then we'll have everything except for this like giant pivot sphere. Let's add the giant pivot sphere too. I mean, I'll just add like a temp sphere for now. So mesh, we can say, I guess I'll do an icosphere. No, I don't want that. I want a UV sphere. An icosphere is basically like a D20 dice that's been smoothed, so all the sides have the same size. Whereas like a UV sphere is like when you look at a globe that has lat-long coordinates. So these faces are not all the same size, but they are like aligned horizontally and vertically so that they meet at 90-degree angles. So if I go in here, scale this up to be as big as that was before. Shade it smooth. Oh. Come in here. I think think the only difference off of before is, like I was saying, when I have a track that's like along this front seam, that's sort of like you imagine, like, yeah, I think this will make sense when I like actually model it here. But we can select this ring. I think I can like bevel it and use the mouse wheel to add geometry on the inside. And then I think what we can do is, oh, I should hide this for now. Oh, that looked real bad down there. Actually, I think what we need to do is rotate. This way, so that, yeah, this is there, and then we have a really clean edge that goes all the way around without going through that pinch point. By the way, anytime you do a 2D parameterization, as in you try and put a 2D grid onto a sphere, you're always going to get at least one pinch point, no matter how you define it, usually two. There's a mathematical proof of this, and it has a very funny name, which is the hairy ball theorem. So we can bevel here. So we can basically create this inside track, and then I think if I extrude and scale, yeah, I can pull in. And then we can say smooth by angle, put that at like 45 degrees. Now we've got this, it's that sphere there, but it's got this track that we imagine. This is actually hooked into that track. So like when it when the whole thing here, if I go to 3D cursor median and I say like X, like when it rotates like this, you could actually imagine that it's actually like, actually if I unselect this, RX, you can imagine it's like sliding along that track, right? I think it just like gives a little like mechanical validity to it. That's the sort of thing which I just did it with geometry. I don't know if I should do that with a normal map instead. I don't know, I'm gonna leave it as is for now. But yeah, so the last things are the pipes. I think as like a first approximation for the pipes, I'm just going to do like a cube and then extrude an L shape and then see what happens when I smooth that or subdivide that, see if that looks good enough. So we're in object mode, so I can add a cube. I can come in here, I can scale it down, I can pull it over here onto the positive X side. I can have auto mirror, now I've got two of them. So now we can drag them back here. Oh, let's go back to median pivot mode. Bring them in here. And basically I want to do face select, I want to extrude. I want to Alt S to pull them out. I want to extrude along this direction. And then I want to extrude along this direction, and then I want to extrude just a little bit at the top so that when I subdivide it, it's still kind of sharp. So we come out here, we can add a subdivision surface modifier, and it doesn't look super great, but I think the things that I need are to add basically some rings to pull it in like that. And I think now, like when I bake that and do other things, I can like clean it up. But yeah, we can select these. I use GG to slide them along faces. So Alt click to get a ring, GG to slide the ring, Alt click, GG. And then I can actually, let's see, do I get a better shape if I like modify this, or no, I think it was actually pretty good just as a flat thing. Yeah, then let's add the you can say F3, no, when my mouse is over here, shade auto smooth, ignore sharpness, go 45 degrees, go even more than that, like 60 degrees, oh, that's too much, 50 degrees, okay, I don't think that there's going to be a magic angle on this one. I'm just going to have to like have it do its best and then modify it later after I cook it out. I think the top can be a little sharper though. Cool. So now we got those dinguses sticking out the back. Maybe they can be bigger. Maybe also rotate them a little bit. Let's make them straight up and down. If I rotate them as objects, that's even worse. Okay, a lot of cleanup, but like I think this is like a pretty good first pass in terms of like improving this turret. So I think I'm gonna call it right there. After the stream, I'm gonna do like a ton of like little noodling and cleanup, and like I think broadly try and reduce the amount of geometry, because I think there's actually maybe too much geometry right now, but maybe I'm wrong. And I also just wonder if there's like, I think there's some details about this that still aren't like working for me, so I need to figure that out exactly. But thanks for watching. I try and do this every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Los Angeles time. If you just tuned in halfway through, my name is Max. This is my game Nightshift Galaxy. I'm currently, my current streaming schedule is working on this big tank, which you can see it's rigged up and it's going. It's like the gameplay is there. It's got like the whole thing. You can like damage parts of it. Oh my goodness, I cannot like talk and play at the same time. You can see we can like blow up bits part by part. So the current like next step is just to replace all this like low poly stuff with like a little more like interesting model things. Although, you know, I don't totally love these like bevels and things, so I gotta do like a lot of cleanup on this. And then I'm gonna do a material pass, and then I'll bring it into the engine and I'll make sure everything still works after it's been rigged with like everything else. And then the next parts are to go through like we drew and do the front legs, the side legs, the chassis, and the ammo boxes in the back. So this turret is just like part one. So I don't know, maybe next week we'll finish all the other parts. It'll probably go faster. I think I'm gonna spend some time noodling on this over the weekend and like figure out how I like doing it, so that like I can just like really go like snappy on the other parts, because I got it all like figured out. So thanks for watching. This is great. It certainly helps if you wishlist the game. So it's on Steam. You can just Google Nightshift, one word, Galaxy, and you should be able to find it. I mostly post on Blue Sky at littlepolygon.bski.social, but I also like mirror some stuff back to the old Twitter account, just for like people who followed from before that became a bad site. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'll put this on VOD in case you want to watch the earlier parts, and I also like edit and put stuff on a YouTube archive. So even after the VOD time's out, you can always look up Nightshift Galaxy on YouTube, and we got almost 50 streams like this if you just want to watch me noodling all the little parts of the game. So yeah, I don't know how to end phone calls, I don't know how to end streams, so I think I'm just gonna say bye now. Bye.